Just before dawn on June 22, 2025, central Iran was rocked by a series of massive explosions that shattered the stillness of the night. The darkness was pierced by sudden bursts of light, visible for miles around, as the desert sky lit up in a way no one had ever seen before. The ground shook for miles around the nuclear facilities at Natanz and Fordo, sending tremors through nearby towns and villages. Windows rattled, alarms blared, and people scrambled from their beds, unsure if it was an earthquake or something far more sinister. Residents awoke to blinding flashes and thunderous blasts. This was no accident. The air was thick with fear and confusion as families huddled together, watching the horizon glow with fire. The United States had launched a calculated military strike targeting the core of Iran's nuclear program. The world was stunned as news broke across every major network, with headlines flashing in every language. Years of tension, threats, and diplomatic standoffs had finally erupted into open conflict. The fragile peace that had held for so long was shattered in an instant. Diplomats had warned of this moment, but the reality was still shocking. Emergency meetings were called, and world leaders scrambled to respond to the crisis. Operation Enduring Resolve showcased American military might. Stealth bombers, deep penetrating bombs, and precision missiles, all deployed with chilling efficiency. The world watched as the US demonstrated its technological edge. The mission's goal was clear: cripple Iran's nuclear ambitions, and send a message that could not be ignored. As dawn broke, satellite images revealed craters and smoke billowing from devastated sites. The scale of destruction was undeniable, and the implications were enormous. The US had crossed a line, opening a dangerous new chapter in global politics. Analysts debated what would come next, as uncertainty spread across continents. The world held its breath, waiting for Iran's response. In homes and streets, people anxiously watched their screens, searching for any sign of what might follow. This was not a surprise attack. The possibility had loomed for years, casting a long shadow over the region. Yet few believed it would actually happen. Yet the sheer scale and precision of the operation sent a brutal message. The world saw in real time the devastating reach of modern warfare. The strikes weren't just about destroying facilities, they were about reshaping the balance of power in the Middle East, sending shockwaves through every capital. Now, uncertainty and fear gripped the region. Would Iran retaliate? Would this spark a wider conflict that could engulf neighboring countries? Was this the start of a wider war? The world's militaries braced for what might come next, as borders were fortified and defenses raised. The silence from both capitals only deepened the global anxiety. As the world waited, the uncertainty was almost unbearable and the future more unpredictable than ever. The decision to strike was months in the making, shaped by countless hours of debate and intelligence analysis behind closed doors. Everything changed after a critical IAEA report in June 2025, which sent shockwaves through the international community. The report confirmed Iran had enriched uranium to weapons-grade levels, a red line for the US and its allies, and a development that could not be ignored. Washington interpreted this as undeniable proof of Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions, viewing it as a direct threat to both regional and global security. The region was already on edge. Sabotage, cyber attacks, and tit-for-tat strikes between Israel and Iran had escalated, creating a volatile and unpredictable environment. US officials grew increasingly concerned that Israel might launch a unilateral attack, risking a wider, uncontrollable war that could draw in multiple nations. By striking first, America aimed to seize the initiative, control the situation, and prevent a nuclear-armed Iran from changing the balance of power. In a somber Oval Office address, the president declared the action necessary to protect global stability, emphasizing the gravity of the moment. The strikes were described as limited and precise, targeting only nuclear sites, not the Iranian people, in an effort to minimize civilian harm. Critics argued that diplomacy and sanctions hadn't been fully exhausted, warning that the attack could backfire and escalate the crisis. Some feared Iran would now expel inspectors and accelerate its nuclear efforts in secret, making the situation even more dangerous. The administration insisted that inaction was riskier than action, believing that waiting would only embolden Iran further. The world now watched anxiously to see if this high-stakes gamble would pay off, or spiral out of control, with consequences far beyond the region. The stakes had never been higher, with the possibility of a broader conflict looming over every decision. The attack was a calculated risk, not a reckless impulse reflecting months of planning and difficult choices. The next moves by both sides would determine not just the fate of the region but perhaps the course of history itself. The B-2 Spirit bombers led the assault, stealth aircraft designed to be invisible to radar. Taking off from Missouri, they flew over 30 hours, refueled mid-air and crossed continents to reach Iran. The mission demanded flawless execution and absolute secrecy. Pilots navigated hostile airspace, relying on the B-2's stealth to evade Iran's advanced defenses. Flying low and exploiting radar gaps, they approached Natanz and Fordow undetected. At the target, bomb bay doors opened, payloads released in seconds. The bombers turned for home, their role complete, but the impact would echo for years. The B-2's success sent a clear message: no target is beyond America's reach. It was a demonstration of technological superiority and psychological warfare. The world had witnessed the cutting edge of modern air power. The fate of the operation rested on these few pilots and their remarkable machines. The B-2S carried the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, America's ultimate bunker buster, a weapon designed for missions where nothing else would suffice. Weighing an astonishing 30,000 pounds, the GBU-57 is engineered to smash through layers of rock and reinforced concrete, targeting the most deeply buried and heavily protected sites on Earth. Iran's most sensitive nuclear work was hidden in mountain fortresses like Fordow, buried deep to shield them from conventional attack and to project an aura of invulnerability. The use of 6 MOPs in a single strike was a direct challenge to Iran's belief in its own invulnerability, sending a powerful signal that no bunker was truly safe. Guided by advanced GPS systems, the bombs plunged deep into the earth before detonating, aiming not just to breach the surface, but to obliterate entire underground facilities. The goal was clear, not just to cause surface damage but to achieve total destruction of centrifuges, control rooms, and the critical infrastructure that powered Iran's nuclear ambitions. Yet even the mighty MOP has its limits. Some sections of these fortified sites may have survived, protected by sheer depth or clever engineering. And crucially, the knowledge to rebuild, the intellectual capital and technical expertise, remains with Iran's scientists, who continue their work undeterred. The strikes could set back Iran's nuclear program by years, inflicting serious delays and forcing costly repairs, but they could not erase it entirely. The message was unmistakable: nowhere is truly safe from American reach, but the underlying threat still lingers, unresolved. This technology was as much about deterrence and psychological warfare as it was about physical destruction, shaping the calculations of adversaries. The world watched as America demonstrated the extraordinary lengths it would go to in order to halt a nuclear-armed Iran, raising the stakes for all involved. But no bomb, no matter how powerful, can destroy expertise, determination, or the will to continue the pursuit. The battle over Iran's nuclear future was far from over, a high-stakes contest that would continue to shape the region and the world for years to come. While B-2S hit underground bunkers, U.S. Navy ships and subs launched Tomahawk cruise missiles. 30 missiles streaked across the region, targeting command centers, radar, and air defenses. The Tomahawks flew low, evading detection, and struck with pinpoint accuracy. Their job crippled Iran's ability to respond and clear the way for bombers. Precision guidance minimized collateral damage, a key U.S. concern. The attack was a synchronized assault, overwhelming Iranian defenses from air and sea. Tomahawks showcased American reach and flexibility, complicating Iran's response. The multi-pronged approach left Iran's military scrambling. The combination of stealth, power, and precision was overwhelming. The strikes were a masterclass in modern warfare. Iran's defenses were left in disarray. The U.S. had delivered a devastating, coordinated blow. Chaos followed the strikes. Initial Iranian silence gave way to claims of sabotage. Social media and satellite images quickly revealed the truth. Major nuclear sites were burning. Iran's leaders condemned the attack as an act of war, vowing a crushing response. Publicly, they promised to rebuild stronger. Privately, they scrambled to assess the damage. The U.S. framed the operation as a necessary, limited action to prevent a greater threat. Diplomats rushed to reassure allies and contain the fallout. U.S. bases across the region went on high alert, bracing for retaliation. Oil prices surged, and the world watched anxiously. The fragile stability of the Middle East was shattered. Would this spark de-escalation or a wider, more devastating conflict? The region teetered on the edge. The strikes sent shockwaves worldwide, drawing mixed reactions. US allies like the UK and France called for restraint, stopping short of full support. Israel praised the attack as historic, Russia and China condemned it as reckless aggression. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session, deepening diplomatic tensions. Gulf states urged restraint, fearing they'd be caught in the crossfire. The UN Secretary General pleaded for peace, warning the world couldn't afford another Gulf war. The globe was now divided, with alliances tested and nerves frayed. The risk of miscalculation had never been higher. The fragile global order was on display for all to see. The explosions were only part of the story. America also waged a silent cyber war. US Cyber Command targeted Iran's military networks, air defense radars and communications, blinding and confusing the enemy. These digital attacks paved the way for stealth bombers, disrupting Iran's response. Intelligence suggests special forces may have operated near targets, gathering intel and guiding strikes. Covert teams likely deployed sensors and laser designators, ensuring maximum accuracy. The operation blended physical and digital warfare, a glimpse of future conflict. Each element amplified the others, creating overwhelming force. The US demonstrated a new level of integrated military power. The strikes pushed the Middle East to a crossroads: war or diplomacy. If Iran retaliates directly or tries to close the Strait of Hormuz, the US has promised even greater force. A cycle of escalation could ignite a regional war, with catastrophic consequences. Alternatively, Iran might opt for limited, deniable attacks or seek diplomatic leverage. The US insists its goal is policy change, not regime change. The strikes were a violent negotiation, forcing Iran back to the table, or so Washington hopes. The risks are enormous: wider war, global economic shock, and a more determined adversary. The bombings set back Iran's program but may have hardened its resolve. The real solution lies not in destruction but in diplomacy. The world now waits. Will leaders choose peace or plunge into war? The stakes are higher than ever. The future of the region and global stability hangs in the balance. The next move could change history.